All right, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to key concept 6.4, global economic development from 1750 to 1900. The need for raw materials for factories and increased food supplies for the growing population in urban centers led to the growth of export economies around the world that specialized in commercial extraction of natural resources and the production of food and industrial crops. So, pretty much the entire world by 1900 has been pulled into this new industrial system, either by being an industrial and therefore usually also imperialist nation like the British, or producers of raw materials that would be shipped to those industrialized nations. The profits from these raw materials were used to purchase finished products. Examples of resource export economies become cotton. Now, Dixie is going to be a good example of cotton export economy until the disruption that comes from the US Civil War from 1861 to 1865. Egypt and India will become important as producers of cotton raw material. Rubber is important in the Amazon, in the Congo Basin, in Central America, in South Asia, and Southeast Asia. The palm oil trade will become important in West Africa, Central and South America, and Southeast Asia. And the guano industries in Peru and Chile and in Oceania, for example. Meat from Uruguay and Argentina, Texas, also Eastern Europe, China, and Japan, and diamonds from South Africa, as well as wheat and grain from like Australia, China, South Asia, South America, and the United States and parts of Europe. Industrialized states and businesses within those states practiced economic imperialism primarily in Asia and Latin America. Economic imperialism is where you control other people not through outright imperialism, but through using money as a method. Examples of states practicing economic imperialism are Britain and France expanding their influence in China through the Opium Wars, forcibly keeping China open to international drug trade, even though they tried to shut it down. The construction of the port of Buenos Aires with the support of British firms in Latin America, part of what will eventually lead to the Teddy Roosevelt corollary of the Monroe Doctrine. Trade in some commodities was organized in such a way that gave merchants and companies based in Europe and the United States a distinct economic advantage. These include opium that was produced in the Middle East or South Asia and exported in this time period mostly to China, cotton grown in South Asia and Egypt and exported to Great Britain and other European countries, palm oil produced in sub-Saharan Africa, West Africa, and exported to European countries, mostly to make margarine, and copper extracted in Chile. Migration also is a major issue in this time period in an interconnected world. Migration in many cases was influenced by changes in demographics in both industrialized and unindustrialized societies that presented challenges to existing patterns of living. So, demographics, again, is populations of human beings, study of populations. So, one thing to note is the population massively increases in this time period, partly because of access to American food products and codfish and stuff like that, and partially because of new techniques of crop rotation and that sort of thing. Because of the nature of the new modes of transportation, like steamships and railroads, both internal and external migrants increasingly relocated to cities, which yet again further fueled that massive movement towards urbanization in the 19th century. This pattern contributed to that global urbanization of the 19th century. The new methods of transportation also allowed for many migrants to return periodically or permanently to the home societies from which they emigrated. Examples of return migrants include Japanese agricultural workers in the Pacific, Lebanese merchants in the Americas, Italian industrial workers in Argentina, Irish people moving to the United States, partially because of the potato famine in 1845, British engineers and geologists to South Asia and to Africa, South Africa mostly. Many individuals chose freely to relocate, often in search of work. The new global capitalist economy continued to rely on coerced labor and semi coerced labor migration, including outright slavery, which continued all throughout the time period inside Africa, for example, Chinese and Indian indentured servitude or convict labor. Ladies and gentlemen, that's key concept 6.5 and 6.6.